because I've been doing them more from my hips. Uh, you know, I don't want quite say forceful, but it's been more that's the driver versus that I was sort of swinging and moving. And I went, oh, that feels very different.
So hang more consciously, hanging the hips when you're doing the circles. Yeah.
But the first time I think I'd ever done it like that.
Yeah. And I would really suggest that people, when they're doing hip circles, pay particular attention to the lower back, because probably there is tension in the lower back and you're kind of working against that part of the body and working against the lower back when you're doing hip circles. And if you haven't strained yourself yet, you're lucky, because that will happen, because if these are already short, these muscles are shortened and tight, and we're doing this, we're actually just taking a tight part of the body and kind of pushing, we're actually asking for difficulty, asking for trouble. It's just a matter of getting the right angle before it tweaks. So if a person can't hang their hips, for example, that's new for them, they don't have a concept of that or just physically can't, you really want to make the hip circles very small, because when these are short, these muscles are short and tight and you're doing hip circles, you are going to pull on muscle tissue that's not ready to be moved and stretched. So you want to hang the hips like a pendulum, lower back is virtually flat. And then, now if you try the difference, if you be up on purpose more than usual and do hip circles, can you feel that there's parts of that circle where that's just adding more tightness to lower back? If
Yeah, you have to kind of force your way through those points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time before that's going to be too much, or the body reacts against it violently, and you end up with a tweak,
Right.
or a strain. So it's just not good for the body. You're doing it in a way that it's not helping the body really, other than at least you're getting some movement and not just sitting still and doing nothing. But you're taking a chance that you're going to hurt the body. When this is hanging and releasing open, all that tweaking and extra tightness that's aggravated, it's gone. But of course, that means that I have to have a ability and understanding of what hanging the hips is and what releasing the lower back is. When people are, normal people, they're just tight and they can't release it. So they have to just be very small, very slow, and very careful, and continue to work on these releasing exercises we do, in particular here. And you can eventually start to feel the difference. This is being tight when I do the hip circles, this is being released. And then every little movement of the hip circle is actually contributing to further release, further and further opening and release. So when I'm hanging properly, releasing the hips and lower back, every part of this movement is a song exercise. Every part of this movement, every millimeter of that movement contributes and encourages and entices a bit more and more and more release. Where exactly the opposite, if I'm up here and tight, any movement tends to contribute to more tightness because the body's protecting itself. Because it knows it's not the move for that type of shape. So of course that applies to every part of the body. If I'm really super tight in the neck and I'm doing neck exercises, head rolls, I can injure myself. I can strain my own neck because my muscles are not ready, not equipped to do that movement. They're not released. So we're back to, again, hanging the head with gravity, releasing those muscles, consciously releasing those muscles. Let them lengthen as much as they're willing to in that moment. And then that's where you hang. That's where the trampoline is. Trampoline is still tight, but at least maybe I've allowed to adjust the tightness a little bit. Let the head hang on the level of that trampoline that's allowed to be there right now. And that's the line that I explore. When even doing this, when I notice some reaction in the trapezius and upper back, pulling in, pulling up, holding. reacting to this. So I can consciously then drop and release the shoulders and those muscles and release, which allows my head to drop more, which triggers this to tighten up again. So I can release that again consciously. All that has to happen, that process has to happen in everything we do and any exercise that you do. Otherwise, again, you're tending to push against and work against tightness that's there. So that applies to everything. This just came up a few moments ago. Golden Rooster stands on one leg. Of course, what's going to happen to everybody, especially at the beginning for a long time, everything pulls in, right? I tighten this, and I probably even tighten all the way up here. So let's see if we can explore Golden Rooster on one leg by doing the opposite of what's normal. What's normal is in and up, abdomen. Do it like a normal person at first. It's kind of like a Frankenstein movement. Feel the normal tightness. We want to use the muscles. We tend to aggravate the muscles by tightening even more. I'm exaggerating a little bit for the purpose of contrasting. And so I know what the opposite direction is. So let's see if I can illustrate this with the leg. So of course, normally lifting the leg is, so I'm getting those sound effects, which might seem a little bit exaggerated, but actually all I'm doing when I go, that's a verbal expression of what's happening here, right? Now, so that's up and in, up and in. So I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna roll my knee out. I roll my knee out. So I create more and more and more space here. Instead of less and less space here, more and more space here. So it's like my knee rolls away from me. Exactly the same as we talk about elbows rolling away from the body. Elbows roll away from the body. This knee does the same thing. So even if you just do that, whether you do the arm motion or not right now, whatever is easier for you, lift your knee, not up, but by rolling your knee forward and away from you. Another similarity, commencement. As you know, we roll away from the body. What happens when we lift up? Frankenstein again. So don't lift your knee up. That's what it looks like. Well, actually, I'm asking you to lift your knee up and notice the tightness and the shirking in. Now, roll your knee away from you. And now roll your tailbone away from the knee. Knee's going forward and up, tailbone is going away from the knee and down. That allows the body to be open and also creates a cantilever, equal and opposite. It's like the yin yang circle in a sense, or a circle. It's going this way, it's open, it's circular, it's complementary, harmonious, even more than harmonious, it's complementary. So my knee rolls away from me to create the lifting, just like commencement rolls away, just like elbows roll away. My knee rolls away from me, and feel the tailbone and the lower back reach down. Of course, that takes some flexibility, awareness, and also physical flexibility for that to start to happen. The person's still tight here, they may not have any movement there or may not notice the movement that's there because it's tight and compacted. So this can start to open that up too. And if you haven't, do the other side. So in other words, I'm opening up to cause the movement. Rather than normal, which is contract to cause movement. Okay, to lift my knee, I've got to use my muscles. Any movement is caused by an opening or lengthening. Opening, and then that feels so much different. My body gets to open even more. It gets to move and open. It gets to stay spacious and young, because old is in and tight and compacted. Young is open, long and spacious. So literally there's a Keeps the body young. Opening. And then see if you can relate to the tailbone or lower back with that movement. Now, same thing with the arm. Lifting the arm. I want to roll the elbow away from me. And now just switch from golden rooster to golden rooster by rolling your knees and elbows away from you. As opposed to lift my elbow and knee. You can see that, no doubt. It's in and up. That's, of course, normal. Especially if the balance is a bit shaky. You want to do the opposite. Roll the elbow and knee away from you. Don't worry about up. Just keep rolling elbow and knee away from you. And up will happen for you. And you get to stay open in the upping. And you'll just get more and more open as you up. Because you're not doing the up. You're just rolling away. And notice the difference. The joints can stay open. The body can stay tall and open rather than closing down. Closing down not only incubates tension, it germinates aging. Combination of words I've never used before. With that opening, rolling away, so that's everything for everything. Left grass bird's tail. This arm, it raises by having it flow away from me. Not lifting, not raising, but by it flowing, rolling away from me. Elbow rolls away from the body, arm floats away from the body. And the other arm doing the same thing too. That's why Tai Chi looks very big and very open, because hopefully we're actually literally opening the space in the joints, literally the space everywhere in the body. Everything is from rolling away from the body, opening, expanding. So another worthwhile thing to feel and to explore, we'll use Golden Rooster still as our vehicle for exploration. Specifically, try this. The back crown of the head continues to press up or reaches for the ceiling, while at the same time, the tailbone is reaching for the floor. So do that as you do lifting of the knee and the hand. And then, even better, see if you can have the lifting of the knee and the arm happening because of the back crown rising up and the tailbone sinking down. So the raising of the arm and leg is happening because of that movement. And also have the idea of the knee rolling away from you and the elbow rolling away from you. Notice how that feels in the body. Takes up more space. It's more open. So the back crown stretches up to the ceiling, tailbone reaches towards the floor. Either making the knee and the elbow roll away or only making it easier for the elbow and knee to roll away from the body. Check in with the abdomen. So then Golden Rooster becomes something that's quite interesting, quite fun. When the body starts to open, that feels very good. It's enjoyable, it's pleasant. And so this movement that for a lot of people probably is like, they just kind of work through it. It's kind of try to get through it. It's one of those hump areas in the set. You just want to get past it. Now it becomes something very interesting and very pleasant. very enjoyable, and very literally transforming, very productive. Transforms the body, literally every millimeter, every millisecond now, this movement is transforming and cultivating the body. Eventually, and this is the essence of Tai Chi, is why we do so many drills and separate exercises, separate drills, so that eventually, literally every millimeter of every move and every millisecond, actually microsecond and micrometer, if not nanometer, is completely filled with content. Completely filled with content. A slightly different way of saying that, or what's inside of that statement, is that the movements are driven completely, not an empty movement, not moving because I know where that shape is supposed to go. I know where left grasper's tail is. I know where golden rooster is. And so I just move the body there. That's empty. And it's simply contracting and muscular work. And that only has a value of, well, at least you're moving your body. That's better than not moving your body, but it's not Tai Chi. We're all these drills and all these cultivations that we do, exercises, cultivation exercises, so that our Tai Chi is so densely rich, so packed with content and organic meaning and effect. Each nanometer, nanosecond, so that left grasper's tail is a very intense experience. And every microsecond, micro millimeter is present with something, full of something, pregnant. Truly, that's the experience. Every microsecond, micro millimeter is pregnant. What's another move I was just thinking of to maybe explore with this? Any kick, because that's similar to what we're doing here, right? And picking these moves because that's where it tends to maybe really become more obvious, is pulling in and pulling out. The normal stuff is even more obvious. So, and of course, lifting the knee is what we've been doing for golden rooster. So take the same technology, same approach into a kick. So, and if you want to contrast, that's very helpful by exaggerating or simply noticing just normal stuff, what happens if you don't consciously employ the Tai Chi approach. Notice what happens. So basically it's doing the opposite. So very similar to the golden rooster that we're just doing. Can I roll my knee and elbows away from the body? Can I lift the leg, preparing it for the kick by rolling the knee away and sinking the tailbone, rolling the elbows away? Oh, that seems to put me in the shape for me. If I just think of rolling the knee away, rolling the elbows away, maybe dropping the tailbone, that puts me literally into the shape of that Tai Chi kick, preparation for the Tai Chi kick. It literally puts me into that shape. Instead of me going into that shape and then me doing the kick. If I do the principles, I'm put into that shape. And that's why I want to go slow, because it's a very enjoyable process, or at least very interesting. It can be very tiring and exhausting when it's new, because it takes a lot of concentration. So once you're past that, you get more and more just the pleasurableness of it. I want to go slow because it's so darn pleasurable. It's pregnant with this full pleasurable feeling. And so that's why I go slow, because I want to elongate that incredible experience. And then putting the kick out and the arms out, that's a little bit more challenging maybe, because on one leg, but it's exactly the same process. So at the very least, notice what you lose, when you're losing it, where you're losing it, when you're tightening up, where you're tightening up, what's happening with the breathing, when you're shirking away, when you're not rolling away anymore, when you're not allowing the body to release and open. Notice when that's happening. And that's fantastic. That's progress. Noticing when you've lost it, where you've lost it, or simply, oh, I'm not doing the Tai Chi way right now. That's progress. Because again, normal people, they're just doing this. They don't even know what they're doing wrong. You're knowing what you're doing wrong or when you're doing it wrong. So that's all progress. So sinking the tailbone or your roots to roll the knees and elbows away, sinking the tailbone and your root, pushes the back crown away. So you become this bigger and bigger wheel. This bigger and bigger wheel, right? The spokes get longer and longer. The tailbone is one of those spokes. The crown of the head, the back crown of the head is one of those spokes. The knees become the spokes. The elbows become the spokes, rolling away. Have that cause the movement. How do I kick, get the leg out and the arms out with these principles, the Tai Chi way, or these principles? Certainly not by using my shoulders and using my top of my thigh. Roll the heel away from you. Roll the heel away from you. Flow out through the bottom of the leg, out through the heel. That'll send the kick up for you. And have that same feeling going through the bottom of the leg, through the heel, go through your elbows and through your blades, through your little fingers. And then try to stay with that process as you transition to the other side. Notice what you lose when you lose it. For example, I'll mention it because I noticed it. Doing pretty good even when I switched to the other leg. But when I lifted that knee, it wasn't enough for anybody to see visually. It was very deep inside. Some of my muscle tissues went like this. Far less than that, but it happened. That direction happened. So you start to get, again, very keen with your ting, very sharp with your inner awareness and inner listening. So any tiny little bit of contraction, it could be the tiniest little bit, but that direction happened. Because it's such a drastic change in direction. It could be a very, very small movement, but it's completely the opposite direction. That's a drastic change. So you notice that. And then you can eventually replace that with the correct direction or correct feeling and stay with that more and more true. And be more loyal to that direction and those feelings more consistently. Now it becomes slow and smooth, not because I'm trying to be slow and smooth, but simply because I'm staying and being more loyal to the feeling of the principle. Not trying to be slow or smooth. I'm just staying with the feeling of the principle. And notice if I lose anything and when and where.
This is pretty amazing. Like as someone who's fought for balance, maybe the whole time I've done Tai Chi, like it takes away the fight for it.
Yeah.
It's just there. And then it's more a question of, okay, am I a little weaker on this foot or this side? And I'm losing, like the tissues are losing their ability to hang out there, but I could just change it and come back, right? Like it's not about the balance. It's yeah.
That's fantastic.
Pretty amazing.
That's fantastic.
I think it will also help me to slow down.
Yeah.
Because, I tend to go through those so quickly, and now I have to think about more, practice more. It'll slow everything down even more, which is good.
Yes. And so it's making you slow down. It's doing it for you. It's slowing you down.
Yeah.
If you want to stay with it. And of course, that's harder work. And I'm not even talking about physically. Like it's a given. It's harder work to stand and stand longer because you're going slower. So you're standing longer. It's hard physically. Of course, I'm not talking about that. That's fairly obvious. It's harder work, mentally, attention-wise, the sensitivity, the tuning in. That's hard work. But of course, you develop that just like any other muscle. And because the more you're able to do that, notice it, ting, and do it, yi, intention and awareness, you get better at sensing it and better at staying there and focusing your attention to stay there. you get more and more of the rewards. That pleasurableness, you get more and more of it for longer and longer. That's motivation to continue doing it. And so your attention gets stronger and longer. And so the slowness, you're able to be slower longer. And it's a completely different feeling than just doing the motion and maybe doing it correctly in terms of alignment and position. And you might even be doing it physically slow. That's not Tai Chi. These qualities, these feelings, that's the Tai Chi. And it's completely different than just doing a shape or a movement. It's inner driven, these inner gears, this inner technology, this inner movement. That's why it's an internal art. It's not about going into a shape or doing a move. It's all this, these gears, all this action that's inside, mentally and physically, that drives, that births, we talked about pregnant, that births the movement and the shape. So this inner pregnancy is what births the shapes and the movement into the shapes. So we just have to feed the baby. Gestation, we have to do the right things. Talk about cultivation. Now gestation, if we do the right things to continue the gestation, then the birthing happens on its own. So it may sound like a silly analogy, but the birthing the baby is gonna, you don't make the birth happen. You don't make the baby happen. The birthing happens to you, for you, or maybe to you. The birthing happens, but you have had to have done all the gestation or cultivation things, eating good food, good water, hopefully other good things, good air, good exercise, but at the very least, minimal nutrition. If you're not cultivating, the baby's not going to grow and then won't be born. Baby can't grow. So we're doing the feeding, the nutrition, the cultivation, the nutrition, the feeding, the nurturing, and then the results, the birthing, the baby are given. So if we do continuous cultivation and incubation, we get the rewards, we get the birthing. It's like, wow, this feels really interesting, amazing, and good. As Cheryl was just kind of, wow, that's the birthing or the results of the nurturing and the cultivation or the, today, gestation, using that word. Anybody have a move from the set that's always tends to be awkward or difficult or you rush through?
I mean, I would say the kick, you know, when we come and we're sort of, what is it after? After the tiger ones where we're sort of kick and then we're having to bring hands down. I
Right.
guess my goal always is to not like completely crater through gravity to get that down, and yet that's it's closer to that than this process that we're talking about.
Right. So you were saying that, wow, the balance, I don't have to really think about it, or at least not worry about it, work about it too much. So that would be that would be a great specific movement or section to work on with those feelings and those qualities, that approach, take it into that movement. So it becomes a really good vehicle to work with those principles. So let's hang out. And even though we're not so-called moving right now, take the same feeling. We're talking about rolling the knee away, rolling the elbow away. Do the same thing, but we're not moving. Same feeling, same quality, but we're not moving. So opening of the knee joints, opening up, maybe even your breathing, your abdomen, it's rolling away from you. Take that into this stationary standing. It'll probably feel quite buoyant or quite expansive, quite open. Same feeling, rolling the knee away, rolling the elbows away, dropping the tailbone away, floating the background away from you to the ceiling. Do this in standing. Same feeling. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Brad.
See you next time.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.